Hello, I'm Paul Briley, and you're listening to Off the Comma. I'm a human who cares about supporting other humans. On this podcast, we'll explore all facets of what it means to feel stuck in life. We talk with people just like us who have found themselves sitting on a comma and not knowing where to go next. We'll unpack the experience with them, where they've been stuck, what it feels like, what they experienced, and what they learned. My goal is to inspire you by seeing yourself in others. I believe that when we feel more connected and seen, magic can happen. And we are back for another, what I believe to be exciting episode of Off the Comma. And I'm really excited today because I have a new acquaintance and new friend in my life. Again, we're going to be talking to Darniece, and we're going to get to hear how her story unfolds for us and what she has to share with us. But I'm just personally excited because I'm still getting to know you. And today is going to be an opportunity for me to get to know a lot more about you and kind of sit here in the front seat and be witness to what you have to share with us. So I'm excited. Darniece, I'm going to turn it over to you. Tell us, how would you like to be known and what would you like people to know about you?
Well, hello, everyone. As you know, my name is Darniece Simon. I have my adjectives that I was, to describe myself. I'm resilient, brave, supportive, and obsessively organized. And keyword obsessively.
Nice.
I also always want to say this just because I work so hard for it. I'm a mechatronic engineer and I'm also a business owner and in the process of becoming a real estate agent. So hopefully by the time you guys actually hear this episode, I am an official real estate agent. So I can say all those in one.
Nice. Multifaceted and multipreneurial. So I want to acknowledge you for that. And just, if you don't mind, share with folks, in one or two sentences, what is a mechatronic engineer?
So a mechatronic engineer is honestly a badass. So when you put it all in one, it is robotics. So I can do really everything a mechanical engineer can do. I can do everything that an electrical engineer can do. I can do the manufacturing. So it's, how do you make a robot? You have to do the manufacturing, TIG weld, arc weld, whatever you need to do, sand iron casting. I can do that. I can do the electrical schematics. I can do the code. In addition to maybe even a failure analysis test, I can do it all. So think robots and everything that has to go into that. And that's what my degree is in.
Nice. Industries and occupations of the future combined with disciplines and practices of the past and present. I love it.
Yes. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Darniece, every guest on my episode, I always start by, before we get into the 5 questions, I always start by asking the intention question. What intention would you have for yourself during this episode, during this conversation? What would you like to have?
One thing that I would like to kind of focus on for myself, and my intention of it all is really just to hear myself. The best motivator that you have is yourself. So if I can hear myself go through these things, and I can also hear other people that are on the podcast as well go through certain things, but it hits different when it's your words and it's your voice. A lot of the times when you rehear yourself, it's always something negative. Oh, that's what I sound like. Oh, I said that. No, I'm here to be me unapologetically, and learn from myself, because I'm constantly learning from other people. I want to learn something about myself and consistently grow. That's really important to me.
I have to say, I love that you said that because, and again, what you said was hear myself. It's such a powerful thing, right? Because I talk about this all the time. I'm a coach, and that's one of the things that happens in coaching is that people hear themselves, and it's usually kind of like a surprise or a discovery, or I didn't realize this. And it's such a powerful learning thing. And here you are saying, as an intention, I want to be able to hear myself, and what that will bring you is just really so powerful. I mean, that's wise to be able to say that.
Thank you, Paul. I mean, look, you've created such a safe space for me to really let it out. So those are all of my intentions on the table.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. All right. So we have not talked about what story you're going to be sharing today. I always like to be just as freshly for it to be fresh and new for me as it is for any of our listeners. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to share. As always, I'll ask the same 5 questions kind of as the framework for our conversation, and then we'll jump in and dive in and dig a little deeper and maybe go sideways from time to time and just see what happens as the story tells itself. So let's start with the first question, if you're ready.
Yes.
All right. Darniece, where have you found yourself sitting on a comma in your life?
I found myself sitting on several different commas, but for my initial, I found myself in a really big bind when I was in college. At one point, I had gone through some sort of financial verification, right? So you need to use your parents' information in order for you to receive a Pell Grant or any type of other FAFSA, right? So I was told through verification that I didn't qualify anymore. And what that meant to me was, how am I supposed to continue to get my degree in mechatronic engineering? And I was also triple minoring. So I was triple minoring in business administration, computer engineering, and mathematics. And I was also the president of the National Society of Black Engineers on campus as well. That sounds like busy, right? You know, so I didn't know what to do, but I made it happen, right? Because the only person that tells me that I can't do something is me.
Hmm.
So yes, I saw a challenge, but immediately I had to figure out a solution immediately. And so I ended up having 5 different jobs while still getting my degree. And I didn't
Wow.
quit my extracurriculars. I kept going. And I ended up graduating, right? I put in the work, I put in the effort, I put my head down, but at the same time, I just needed to get it done. I had already gone through my degree so much. You get to this point where it's like I put in so much work, I can't give up now, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
just had to push myself and do what I could. So I was an exercise instructor. I was a custodian doing night shifts. I was a fitness attendant. I was also a Group X supervisor, and I also worked, I believe, I was a mentor for the Math, Engineering, and Science Achievement Center on our Chico State campus. So there were no other options, right? I couldn't call mom and ask for some help. I couldn't call dad and ask for some help. I was my only help. And I've always been told, I'm the one that's going to make it, right? So I'm the one that's doing things. So the pressure's on.
Yeah.
So I just kind of had to find a way, essentially.
Well, let me, if I may, and I will. I do this with all my guests. Like I'll jump in from time to time, and we call it intervene and interject, but
Of course.
sometimes let's just call it what it is. It's interrupt. I'm going to interrupt for a moment because I want to dig in on something. First of all, an acknowledgement of you. So right out of the gate, sitting on a comma with, I have this plan for myself. I'm in college to do this thing. And clearly you're already involved with triple major and extracurriculars. And now you've been presented with this possibility that like, this isn't going to unfold the way I wanted it to. I'm not going to be able to get the financial assistance that I wanted. So there's this comma, and that's a big one. And yet you immediately just jumped right into, which I think kind of demonstrates the resilience that you were describing earlier. You just went right on ahead and said, and I made it happen, and I got 5 jobs, and I did all these things, and boom, it's done. So I just want to acknowledge you kind of for giving us the whole, nut in a shell right up front. And that sounds like it was a pretty big challenge just based on the things you did to overcome it.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I had a very tough time, as you can imagine, because mechatronic engineering just already sounds difficult,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then to add all that other stuff on top of it, it's just a bit ludicrous, to be honest. But yeah, I just needed to, people have to say tighten the bootstraps, but I had to tighten up that schedule.
Mm.
Okay, I had to become probably one of the most organized people you've ever seen ever in your life. I had to be on campus from 5 in the morning until 10 p.m. every single day. And I'd come, back and forth, walk my dog, go back and forth, because campus wasn't too far from my house, but that's still putting in the work, putting in the effort. I mean, I had a schedule down to the minute.
Mm.
And it really just helped me, because then I'm not filling in my day with what do I need to do now. I know exactly what I need to do. I already wrote it down. I already did it, So yes, I may have a daily task list because things may change, but I know what I'm supposed to be doing at this very moment and at this very minute. So I can kind of keep that lingering or overthinking out of the picture. So I want to say I got obsessively organized during that time because, who else is going to do it for me, right? Again, I have to be my biggest supporter, even though I may have had, people in the back of, in the back of my mind, rooting for me, but I have to put in the work.
And clearly you did, because you didn't use these words, but as you were telling the story, and I write notes to myself, obviously, while we're doing this. And what I heard, and correct me anytime, any place that I misspeak or misreflect something, what you were describing to me sounded like commitment, clarity, sacrifice, and discipline. Do any of those words land?
Oh, absolutely. Discipline is strong. Discipline is very strong, especially. I don't usually bring this up, but I used to wrestle in high school. That's a whole different concept. But that was probably the most discipline based sport I've ever had to do. I mean, ever in my life. And I've done activities and sports all throughout, my elementary to high school career. But here's the thing. My first match, I lost terribly. I mean, I got beat up. This boy beat me up, right? It was totally my fault though, because I weighed in at 160.1. So what does that mean? I have to wrestle a whole weight class, above mine. Yes, if you're only 1 point above. So that means I have to stay in my weight class. I have to stay disciplined. No, I can't eat that thing that I want to eat today. All the other kids are eating junk food and hot Cheetos and all this. I can't do that. I got to make weight. If I don't make weight, I'm going to get my butt kicked,
Oh, wow.
There were even some weeks, and this is also awareness for certain sports, because you have to make weight. You have to be in your weight class. So there were some weeks where I just wouldn't eat, which is very unhealthy. But I mean, when I got into that match, it was over. Sorry to whoever you were, but I was hungry. Okay.
Yeah. What's really standing out for me about this story is, we hear about this. Our society's all based on, discipline this, discipline that. And sometimes it's like, yes. And sometimes it's like, oh, I feel like I'm beat up for discipline. This example you just gave us is really powerful. The discipline that it would take for you to avoid adding that extra 0.1 pounds, that most of us would be like, 0.1 isn't going to make a difference. But in your life and in that example, that 0.1 of lax discipline put you in an entirely different arena that you were not equipped to compete in.
Most definitely.
So it speaks so powerfully to the minuscule impacts that discipline can have.
That's why I tried my best to practice financial discipline, practice just, even just working out, being disciplined for myself. Like, girl, do you really need that? Put that back. Even if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm going to have a cheat day, it's on the list. I know what I'm coming to get there for. I don't deviate from that grocery list.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be in order, because I'm not only setting up for myself today, but I'm setting up for my future. And it's important for me to have certain disciplines now so I can be secure later. I've always told myself I'm on this earth to create generational wealth and help people along the way. That's been my motto for life. That's who I am. That's who I'm going to be. And people are going to remember the things that I've put together, the things that I've done to help others, not necessarily me. I could care less about if you remember me, but as long as I am doing something to help others, I did my job.
It's powerful. What I want to ask this question, and then we'll kind of jump back into kind of your experience with that comma. But what's important to you about helping others?
I want to say the feeling that I get. A lot of the times therapists like to say, you project something that you missed when you were a child. And there were some things that I missed when I was a child. And I like the feeling of helping people because they appreciate me. Not to necessarily say that my parents didn't appreciate me, but because I was so quote unquote advanced, right? And I was also growing up at the same time as my parents, to be honest, that they didn't really know how to give me what I need. Right. So I just had to figure it out myself. And those are the ways that I get it. It makes me feel so good when I help other people. And then on top of that, I'm also a Christian woman, and I can't preach Christianity if I'm not giving back. I have these hands. I'm supposed to be doing God's work. I'm supposed to be putting in the effort, putting in the work. I can't just say it, I have to be a woman of action. And that's how I've always been. So if I'm not putting the work in somehow, some way, like I don't feel as though I'm living my own truth.
Well, and what I see is a woman and a person who is modeling the way. You've already, in the short time we've been talking, communicated belief systems and values that are important to you, and also shared with us all the ways, without saying it, just shown us all the ways that you're showing what those values and belief systems look like for you and how you would want to represent them to other people.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for summing that up. I never really think about it.
And I know you said you wanted to hear yourself,
Right.
and hopefully I'm reflecting back some of what you're saying, with some degree of accuracy. Please do tell me if and when I'm not. I want to come back to and kind of segue a little bit into the second question, but between the first and second questions, we kind of go back and forth. So you've described your experience with sitting on this comma, and you really jumped into the resilience and the reaction to it. When you found yourself sitting on this comma and experiencing everything that you've outlined for us up to this point, or at that point in your college experience, what was that creating for you? You've kind of shared what I did, but what was it like for you? I know that's kind of a basic question. Everybody's like, oh, what was that like for you? How did that make you feel? But, what did being on that comma create for you in your life? And that doesn't necessarily have to be the good things or the bad things. It's just whatever it was.
It really created a hustle mentality. You don't have to grow up in the streets to hustle. I want to make that very clear, especially as a Black woman who hasn't always fit in with people my own skin tone. I've been outcasted a lot because of sometimes the way I speak, the way I act, the way I carry myself. And, that's just the environment that I was grown up in. I like to say everyone is a product of their environment, right? So you may not have the same beliefs as someone, you may not, see eye to eye, but it's up to you to grow enough to hear exactly what people are saying, if that makes sense. Just hear them out. You don't have to always agree, but so like I said, as it created a hustle mentality, and if I don't, who will, and it really also, it instilled a faith in myself, because I can't let myself down, I mean, obviously I can, right? Anybody can, but I'm in charge of how I react. I'm in charge of the things that I do, you know? And one mantra that came out, as I said, I used to be a group exercise instructor. So it was always, I'm a very aggressive instructor, but, I would yell out things to help people. The only person that, says that you can't do something is yourself. Remember where you are and know where you are now. I can, I will, I am. And, as I'm saying all this to everyone else, I'm saying it to myself as well. These aren't just things that I come up with. These are things that I have to tell myself. I have to believe in myself. I have to have faith in myself. So I know what I can put in, and I know what I can produce. So if hustling is what it needed to be at that moment, then that's what it needed to be. And I do want to say I also had a partner during that time, and I very much communicated to them that I just need a little bit more, So I want to give thanks to them in this moment, because they definitely helped me really just become the woman that I am. A little bit of fine tuning, just to that aspect of hustle mentality, because they were there. They may not have been there all the way, but they were definitely there to provide a bit of support, maybe verbally at the moment, and even just a hug. Something that simple. But it allowed me to hustle and also kind of also receive, or allow myself to receive some sort of support from my partner at the same time, because I've been so only I can do it, me, right?
Okay.
So that kind of allowed me to also be a bit vulnerable.
So
as well.
I want to kind of zoom in on this a little bit, because it's such a timely topic. I think it's always been timely in human history, but right now, as part of our social narrative. And you're coming at this from what I believe is a unique perspective, because in our social narrative today, and by the way, I'm not putting any value judgments on any of this. We know that people are talking about hustle culture, and we know that hustle culture today doesn't always have positive connotations. Setting that aside, when you say it gave me a hustle mentality, I'm not hearing you describe that from a victim's point of view or as I had no other choice. I'm really hearing you describe hustle mentality as something that taught you things, something that you embraced, and that also, here's the other piece that was kind of unique to me, is not only did it help me become more, maybe independent is the word that's coming to my mind, but also allow myself to be able to receive things from someone else. That's the new twist that I haven't heard somebody else say before. Hustle mentality and hustle culture is very wrapped up and tethered to, I would even say, individualism and capitalism here in America. And you're saying it made me stronger in what I do and made me more able to receive. Like, you got to tell me about this one.
It more so was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I have no other option, but I'm not really focusing on that. I'm focusing on getting it done. I don't focus on all of these other things, right? I give myself at least 24 hours, 24 hours to think about all the negatives, all the what ifs, right? I write down the pros, I write down the cons, and I read them through.
Mm-hmm.
I allow myself to feel those emotions in that time span. Like I said, I got to write it out because I definitely can be considered an overthinker, but hey, that's what journals are for, right? You can find them on my store. Shameless plug. Um,
Well, and we'll do that more at the end too. So just so you know, you get space for that as well.
Thank you, Paul. But yes, it was just really one of those things where it was like, well, it is what it is. So I'm not going to focus on the negatives. I already wrote it out. And I have this person at the time who was so relaxed, such an opposite of me, just sloth like with his entire demeanor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just allowed me to calm down. You know, sometimes you take on certain characteristics that your partner may have. And I
Mm-hmm.
definitely took on some of those characteristics. And he's, what's going on? Why are you so upset? You want to talk about it? No one really asked me that.
Mm.
Nobody, not to say that it wasn't a healthy relationship going in, but I'm just not used to this. You
Mm-hmm.
care enough to ask me what's going on with my day, and you genuinely mean it. So I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna let you know all the struggle, excuse me, all the struggles that I'm having. I'm going to allow you to come into this hustle mentality that I have, so I can share with what's going on with me. So I mean, like I said, there to me there was no other option, but I'm not focusing on that part. I'm focusing on, okay, well, what can I do to get to the solution? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like,
What can I gain is also what I think I'm
oh,
hearing you say.
absolutely. Every single one of my experiences, I've gained something from them. So, you know, what's the takeaway? And how do I get there fast enough, you know? And the right way,
Mm-hmm.
the healthy
Mm.
way, of course. But some things can be a little rushed. And I just wanted to graduate. I got 5 jobs. I'm ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So just being able and ready to receive help from others and during down times, you know, because I'm gonna have sad times, I'm gonna have pressured times. It's gonna hurt. Because you know, like I said, I give myself at least 24 hours, and those 24 hours hurt.
Mm.
Eyes red, you know, ugly crying, all of the above.
Tell us if you would tell us a little bit more about this. I give myself 24 hours thing. I haven't heard anybody else describe that before, and I always like getting a little bit deeper into like what's that really mean for you and what does that look like when you do it, because that's the piece that I think a lot of us don't really get from the mainstream self-help stuff, right? Like what does 24 hours look like for you, and what are you doing in that window?
Absolutely, because you know, in the beginning, I very much glossed over. I needed to get it done, so I got it done. Well, there were definitely some down days in there. So what this 24 hours is, let's say I got my bad news from school. We're going back
Mm-hmm.
to financial aid, right? And I just sat there and I cried. And I said, wow, well, what am I going to do? What can I do? Do you have any other programs? Do you have any other resources? Like, you know, what can you do besides tell me that you can't help me? And so I got a whole bunch of information from one of my favorite financial aid staffers at Chico State. Shout out, right? And basically, she gave me a grant that technically was a loan under the school or whatever, something like that. But she did that for me, right? Because I didn't just say, oh my God, my life is over. I'm going to leave. Like, no, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
The tears were still there, right? The froggy voice was still definitely there as I'm sniffling to get through. But what can you do for me? You know, you're supposed to be here to assist students. And you just told me something detrimental. So
Mm-hmm.
where's the good news? She gave me all the information that I needed. I said, okay. I sat down. Yes, I'm sad. Yes, I'm feeling all these emotions, but like I said, I wrote down everything she gave me. I wrote down the pros, I wrote down the cons. I've been going through the school for a certain amount of years. How far have I gotten in my classes? Am I still in my prerequisite courses, or am I in my regular courses actually have to do with my major? That all was on the list. All of that, So basically, I allowed myself to feel. I allowed myself to, like I said, cry, get happy, get sad. It's a grieving process for me when I'm feeling my emotions. It's not a straight line. There's a lot of things that happen. Even just like, I said I'm obsessively organized. Maybe that day, maybe I didn't make my bed. Maybe I just stayed in it. And I allow myself to have those days, which is really important because if I don't, then all of the actual grief that I've kind of pushed down and all this other stuff that I haven't focused on are all going to come out all at once.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, during those 24 hours, I write down my pros and cons, I hold my dog, I hold my guinea pig, I talk about it to friends and family. I let it out. I don't just dwell. I also want to hear other people's opinions. Was I right for this? Should I do this? Should I do that? I'm ultimately going to make whatever decision I feel is best for myself. But during those 24 hours, I allow myself to not only just be in my head, but also receive advice, receive assistance, receive resources, and just feel.
Yeah, I love every part of this personally, and for anybody for whom this resonates. And what I believe I'm also hearing you say is what I don't do in that 24 hours is make a final decision or react in a way that takes me down a specific path or choice. 24 hours to process, right? It's almost like life gives you a comma and you're sitting on it, and you choose to take a smaller comma to process the impact of it.
Yes, because the worst thing I could possibly do, but I also am very communicative also. So like, let's say if I was going into work and I had a bad day and I'm still that 24 hours, right? This news just hit me.
Mm-hmm.
I still got to show up, but I got to leave that at the door. I'm a great actress. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a great actress, but sometimes you may say something up the side of your neck and I may be in one of my moods. So, but before we even get there, I tell you, hey, I'm not having the best day. So I just want to let you know in advance, just in case. Okay. I'm here if you need me, but I also want to communicate that I'm not 100% of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super important because you know, you could really be like, hey girl, how you doing? You see your friend and they're just like, please get away from me. It's like, what did I do? What did I do? The worst thing you could possibly do is, have someone be upset with you and you don't know why. And so it's important for me to communicate to other people, hey, I'm not my best self today. I can't give you all of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not gonna, go all into detail and say, hey, this is a part of my 24 hours and I leave me alone. But I will communicate that, hey, I'm not 100% of myself. So please just give me that grace right now. I'm usually coming in with a smile and a great attitude, and I can't do that. I can fake it as best I can, but I want to be open and honest. Darniece was off today. Yes, I was, but you know why, right?
Mm-hmm.
These for the people that need to know.
Well, and it speaks to, and this speaks to how you described yourself as brave, right? Because it takes some bravery to be able to put that out there. And it seems to me what it's speaking to is so often people fall into the mistake. I like to believe it's a mistake and not a choice. We'll leave it at that, right? But people fall into the mistake of assuming that if you're having an off day or a bad day, they make that about you being that person, not really recognizing and acknowledging that it's something that's happened to you. Like you're having a bad day doesn't make you a I was going to say a bitch, but
Hey, say
you
it.
having a bad day doesn't make you a bitch. Or makes me a
Right.
bitch. It just means something bad is happening to me that I'm reacting to. So it puts the responsibility where it belongs, which is on the event or the thing, and not you or your character. So what's brave about you is you're not waiting to see how somebody's going to choose to react that. Like you're going to give them that information right up front and say, now you have the data. Where you go with it from here, that's up to you.
Exactly.
I have a larger acknowledgement, and what it seems to me, because you've been very clear about hustle, get it done. What other choices do I have? There's something that's coming up for me in the piece that you shared about your partner and being able to receive help from others. And I'm wondering, Darniece, if outcome mentality is also an appropriate description. I'm not trying to change your story, but this is what's powerful, I think, for myself and hopefully other people who are listening, is that getting things done doesn't mean I just get everything done on my own and suffer and sacrifice. You're telling a story of it's so important for me to get these things done that I'm also open and willing and receptive to how others can contribute and help. You've shared two examples, your partner, and then this person who was able to help you at school in the financial aid office. Though that's not traditional hustle. I have outcomes I want to achieve.
I knew I had a goal, and there are some things that you just can't do by yourself, and that's okay. It's okay to ask for help.
Mm.
This kind of comes, and I found this out myself. There's been a lot of healing that I figured out myself, and it'll just come at random points. This is why I do this. But so the reason why I was so to myself and I was so there's only me, I can only depend on me, I can only depend on me. It's because like, and this is happening now with my now partner where I can be fully really just kind of let go. I trust you. And the reason why I trust you is because you haven't let me down. Time and time and time and time again, growing up, right? Adults will let you down. And that is the childhood trauma speaking loudly from me. I have to be my own hero.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not going to let myself down, you know? And my word means something. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. There is no if, and, or but. And that is a big reason why I was just like, I'm going to do it myself. I can do it myself. But then, hold on, I don't want to keep doing this by myself. I'm going to allow someone to come in. I'm going to allow someone to help me because if I keep doing it by myself, I'm going to get overwhelmed. No matter what, the situation that I'm in is extremely overwhelming, right? But someone can help. Someone can do something, right? And like the lady from the financial aid office or my club advisor, Lupe Jimenez, that man, whenever I needed help, he was everything for me. Yes, my partner was there, but before I let him in, Lupe Jimenez, my Nesby advisor, every single resource known to man. He was also one of those people. If I'm calling for advice, he's been going to or working at Chico State maybe for like 15, 20 years. This man knows it. He knows who to call, what all the resources, plenty of business cards in his portfolio. So like it was one of those things where I see how successful this person is, and he's not the type of person that just does everything by himself. He has a team. Successful people have a team, and I needed to create my own. And like I said again, this is just a bit of childhood trauma in the beginning when I'm not letting people in and I'm just overloading myself because I'm not going to disappoint myself, right? I know I'm going to show up for myself.
Hmm.
You came into this world alone, you leave in this world alone, unfortunately, but it's the truth, you know? And that's the mentality that I had for such a long time. And it's still, relatively true, right? But at the same time, you don't need to do everything yourself. You can lean on people, but you need to have the right people around you. You don't always have to do it yourself.
You know what just came up for me also, and I so appreciate about what you just shared is aligned 100% with what you said. You know, you come into this world alone, you leave this world alone. But do we really? Because don't we leave this world taking with us everyone that we touched or were touched by, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. You're kind of segueing into the third question. So let's just go there. You know, what did you learn about yourself, or what are you learning about yourself as a result of sitting on this comma?
I'm going to reiterate a phrase that I said earlier. The only person that tells me that I cannot do something is myself.
Mm.
Um, and again, when I'm yelling all these things or was yelling all these things in my exercise classes, that was for me. That was me talking to me. And I also remember where I came from. That's important. You know, I have done so much, and it's important to give myself acknowledgement for the things that I've done and celebrate myself. What I've learned and what I've taken away from that and what I've gained is really just giving myself grace. I'm going to do it. I can do it. All these motivational things that I've said earlier, there just isn't any other option besides success. So if I continue to practice these things and I continue to tell these things, look, if I need to be in my own delusional world, then that's what it's going to be. But let me tell you something, I'm going to make something shake and I'm going to make something happen. So, yes.
Yeah, I just have to say, I mean, I can see how passionate you are about this and how much conviction there is behind your words. And, you know, as a coach, you say there just isn't any other option. The reality is there's lots of other options. What I believe you're saying is that there's no other option for me. And so I'm curious if you don't mind sharing with us, like, what makes that your only option? Like, why is that true for you? There's no other option.
Well, when I say there's no other option, my main focus is failure. Failure is not an option.
Mhm.
There's different routes to get to my goals, and throughout my life journey, but failure is not in my mindset. And the reason why I can be so convincing is number one, generational wealth, right? All right, I said that in the beginning. That's my goal, that's my mission. And I've always been the one in the family to show everyone that you can make it out the hood, right? Because I actually have a lot of family members that are definitely, not living their best life, and that is not, a product of them. That's a product of their environment.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I'm showing them that you can. How many other female Black engineers do you know? Mechatronic engineers at that. That just even having that title is a rarity.
Mhm.
Most people don't even know what it is that are in the engineering field.
Mm.
So I'm a role model for myself, not only just for little girls and little boys, that look like me, but I just take time to look at myself, appreciate myself, and sometimes I feel like people cannot remember where they come from and just are focused in the present and really just hyper focused on the future. Like, I don't have this now, I'm gonna have that later, but like, what are the goals and the daily tasks to get there? And I'm
Mhm.
focusing on those to get there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing that I believe I'm hearing in your answer there, and these dots that I'm connecting, that I'm at least connecting, is that again, because you are so outcome focused, and those outcomes are so important to you, and you anchor that in one of the most important outcomes, which is generational wealth. It makes it a little bit clearer that when you say failure is not an option, there's so many people who could easily say, well, of course you can, you know, it's like, what does it matter? So you make a couple of mistakes or whatever. It sounds like in your lens, it's not just about me. I have potentially generations ahead who are going to be impacted by the decisions that I make. You just talked about being a role model for little girls and little boys who look like you, right? Young Black men and young Black women. It's not just what you do today, but it's if you're going to build that generational wealth, it's the generations that follow that you want to benefit from it. And then it's the example you want to set. So it's not just as easy for you as, well, I don't feel like I'm having a good day. Just forget it. This isn't that important anymore, because that takes you back to the 0.1 pounds, doesn't it?
I have to be honest. I have to be on it. But I want to say the reason why I am so foundationally set. No, I've had this same idea since my sophomore year in high school. The reason why I was motivated to even become a mechatronic engineer, I had invented something called a smart cabinet my sophomore year of high school for my little brother who's autistic. And as an engineer and someone who is hopefully going to be a real estate agent by the time this episode airs,
Mm-hmm.
my goal has always been to create safe housing for people who are disabled. My little brother is my world. My family is my world. So if I don't, who will? That's really what it is. I have people depending on me, and I want to start a family one day, but I want to make sure that I'm financially set to have that family. And the reason also, again, why I can have this much confidence is because of my man. My man. What he does give me is his word. What he does do is what he says he's going to do. And if you have someone in your back corner who's like that, the world is literally your oyster. That's
Mm.
all I can say. All I can say. If I fail today or tomorrow, he's right there.
And can I just
For
call
me.
attention to something that you just said too that I think is really important, and I love this because I'm also taking notes. As you said, my man, my man, my man, and but you described the things that he gives you in terms of him and his responsibilities and his actions. You didn't describe him in the terms of your identity being attached to him. There's a distinction there. Your identity isn't wrapped up in him. It's what he contributes and adds.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of just a powerful takeaway.
Thank you. Look, let me tell you something. I am me every single day of the week, right? But what he does is he just adds to it. And I can be myself because he's consistent, because he communicates, because, like I said, if he says it, he's going to do it. And like I said, growing up, I didn't really have that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also, I'm filling in those traumas with this
Mm-hmm.
perfect partner for myself and my own traumas that I've gone through and realizing that, of course, along the way. But the reason why those attributes and characteristics that I'm setting out there are so important is because I didn't have them when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been such a one woman show that I can let my guard down and I can really just focus on the things that I need to focus on because I know whatever he's going to do, he's going to get it handled. I don't have to think about, okay, is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? No, 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 no. He already said it's going to get done. We're on to the next thing. I can focus on me. I can do what I need to do, you know? And he allows me the safety of failure.
Oh, okay. Well, wait a minute. No, okay. So now we got to talk about this for a minute. We got to talk about this for a minute before we go to these last couple of questions. Because wait a minute. Now I'm going to call you out. You have been telling us failure is not an option.
Yeah.
And now you're saying he gives me the safety of failure. So I'm not trying to set you up. I would love
You're
for
like,
you to
hold
just
on.
tell us because I think it's important. I think there's something important here that you mean to share with us.
Well, here's the thing. Failure isn't an option because I'm going to keep getting back up, right? But you can fail any day of the week. Something could not work out, but I'm still going to get back up. That's what I mean. Failure isn't an option in my own eyes. But let's say if I do fall, he's going to be right there to pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to bat an eye. I know that he's there for me. And that's really it. That's the whole takeaway. If let's say if I do fall, if something doesn't work out, maybe I don't get a certain amount of sales or whatever, right? Quit my job today or tomorrow. Hopefully I don't. But with those things, I'm going to always land on my feet no matter what, with him or without him, right? We want to say that. But I am allowed this kind of safety net of failure because of the partner that I have. But like I said, I will always dust my knees off and get back up. That's always going to happen. The mission is still going to happen, but I can make certain choices that maybe someone who has a 9 to 5 can't, who doesn't have a supportive partner, who may be singular, right? But I can do that. I can make, not to say crazy financial choices, but obviously, maybe even a large investment or something of the sort. I can do that because I'm going to be fine. we're going to be fine. So that's where that kind of correlates. No matter what, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I can make, let's say, just kind of crazy things happen in between that time span, maybe even to, expedite everything that someone else may not have been able to because they don't have the support from someone else. So that is that kind of clarity moment.
Safety to be me.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hearing safety to be me, whatever that me is in the moment.
Yes, unapologetically.
Yeah, I love that. What has changed for you? I think you've answered this question in a variety of different ways, but I want to give you an opportunity to add to it or to even go further. What has changed for you as a result of sitting on this comma?
One thing that I didn't touch upon is my college experience. I had just lost so many people, even to suicide, to just illnesses. And there was even one instance where someone had committed suicide on campus. And I just walked past that building and I said, oh my goodness, I hope I don't know them. And lo and behold, I do know them, right? And they were just at my house, I want to say maybe 1 to 2 days prior. And what did I do after I found out who it was? I allowed myself some time to shed some tears and I got back to doing my homework. I got back to going to school. I maybe gave myself an hour of time because a lot of the times what would happen is someone would pass away and it would be terrible, right? I really love this person. I feel for this person, or I have love for this person, right? And I still have assignments to. I still have to read for this class. I still have this test coming up, and I didn't allow myself the time to have a break, even with that 24 hours, because there would be certain times where um, I would be in my 24-hour period, and just it would hit so much harder than it needed to because I didn't give my time. I didn't give myself time to grieve for these other things because it was always one of those things where, okay, well, I can either take some time out from school or keep going because class isn't going to stop. Assignments aren't going to stop. I'm going to have to redo the stuff that I didn't do already. And then I have to catch up with the rest of the class and do work for that too. And we still have this test coming, right? And I'm not just taking one class, I'm taking multiple different classes. And then I would start to have like body aches. My body would break down. I've even had some epileptic episodes also. So I would say my biggest takeaway, right? And my biggest learning curve and experience is just it's okay to not be okay. And sometimes you need to take time for yourself. Be nice to yourself as you are to everyone else, right? Because sometimes you get to this point where you're just like, I don't want to do this for myself. Maybe I was supposed to work out this week. Maybe I was supposed to do this and that, but you don't. But if someone else asks you to do it, you jump up out of bed and get it done. So I try to be that person for myself. Not only give myself those 24 hours, but take the time that I need because if I don't take that time, then I can't grieve properly. And it's going to pop in different ways and different forms when I can't handle it in that moment. Let's say I'm in a work meeting or something and I'm thinking about someone who's passed away. Like, girl, you got to handle that. Take your time because you deserve it. You know, you can't keep giving everyone pieces of you if you're not 100% yourself. So those are my biggest takeaways is be kind to yourself. And I've learned to do that. Give yourself grace. And again, just be nice to yourself because we are so mean to ourselves. Just even listening back to your voice again. You listen back to the recording. Oh, that's what I sound like. This is what people are hearing. This is what I said. Girl, it's already out there. Take it as it is.
Yeah.
This already happened. Take it, internalize.
Yeah. And I want to very much acknowledge how difficult some of these experiences that you've described had to have been for you. And also that I see you kind of showing us how, your grief process is your own. And as in the example that you shared, like there's no rule that says it has to happen right here. We have this kind of proximity bias in our culture, I believe. And there's multiple definitions of that, but this proximity bias, and when it comes to emotions, that event happens and I have to grieve and mourn right then and there. What you described was I could feel it, I could experience it. It was all there. And there were these other things that I needed to put my attention and energy into first and now, but I didn't entirely push this away. I didn't pretend it wasn't there. And I was able to come back to it in my own time and space and still have honored myself.
Absolutely.
Your grief process is your own. It is your own. Darniece, last question. What does getting off the comma look like for you?
Getting off my ass. Genuinely. As someone who has worked from home for a while and also had to go through COVID times, clean house, clean mind. And I really take that with wholeheartedly. If my house is not clean, I am not calm. I am anxious. The way my space looks is how I feel. So if this is a mess, if my room, my house, whatever, and let me say this, I've only lived in studios on my own. So you can't hide that mess, girl. It's right in front of your face.
It's so true. So true. I too have lived in studios, and it's like, it helps if you're already organized and neat and clean, right? Because if you're not, you are going to be faced with it.
That pile of clothes is looking at you, and you feel it. Those daggers are going, So.
But you were talking about clean house, clean mind. Like, say a little bit more about that.
It's more so just like your room and your sanctuary, your space is a reflection of you. It should be your peace, not your stress. So for me, I have as I said, I'm obsessively organized, at least in my home. Look, I could take a while to get to an email, but I'll tell you one thing, my house is going to be spick and span. So like I have a chore list, I have a hobby list, I have a workout list. So I try to do a hobby a day. I try to work out every single day, and I try to clean something every day. Like, for example, Tuesday, I clean the bathroom. I'm not trying to do everything on Saturday. I'm trying to enjoy my Saturday, Yeah. And a lot of the times people like to pile everything on Sunday. No. My house is clean throughout the week. I do small things. I do little things so they don't amount later. I don't feel overwhelmed. I like to keep my anxiety levels low because I have a lot going on. The least I can do is make sure that my sanctuary is peaceful. Because when it's peaceful, I'm at peace. We are one. And it's a clear representation of my mental stability in that moment. So sometimes if I'm not feeling it, you'll see it.
Yeah.
That's all there is there. Them dishes are piling up. My bed is not made. My clothes, maybe they're on the floor. Pick that up and just start somewhere. Just start somewhere. I put on a podcast, sometimes this podcast actually. I just need something. Put it in my ears, right? Maybe I'm on my phone too much. I'm scrolling too much. Put that down. Delete the app. Clean house, clean mind. And it's not just the house. It's maybe I have too many things going on. Sometimes we have music on, we have a podcast on, we have the TV on. It's like there's a lot of chaos going around, and it would be best if we shut something off. I just have to check in with myself from time to time, and if my space is clean, then I can focus on what I need to get done. But it's really just for me making sure that my workspace is clean because I do live in a studio. And then also knocking off stuff on my to-do list. That feels good. Feels good. When you write on that daily task list and you start checking those boxes off, oh, that's my bread and butter. It does something to me. I'm not gonna lie. Those are the best. That's me. That's me getting it together, getting off the comma, making sure that my mental health is in the best place that I can put it in. And then also making sure that my physical health is the best, shape I can get in it. Again, be as consistent, as nice to yourself as you are to everybody else. And if I continue to do that for myself, I'm off the comma. I'm doing great, you
Yeah.
know, because we're so nice to other people.
Well, and I'm also hearing you describe caring for yourself, and caring for yourself very much as a verb. Structure, discipline, accomplishment, achievement, and celebration are ways that you show care for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. Darniece, let's land this plane. So my last question for you is, what would you acknowledge yourself for, having now completed this conversation?
I would acknowledge myself for, I mean, honestly, just continuously being resilient. That's always been the word that people use for me. And at one point, I actually used to get offended because it's just like, I don't want to have to be resilient. I want to be able to be soft. I want someone
Mm.
else to care for me. I want to be cared for, right? Then it's like, well, yeah, that is me. Because whenever something goes down, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm not just gonna lay down and let it happen. That that is me. Solution oriented. That's me at the end of the day.
And you also describe the softness, like bringing it to yourself first and then leaving room for others, for it to show up in your life and to receive it when it does.
Exactly.
I love this. I love everything that you've shared with us. And your intention was to hear yourself. And I didn't state it at the beginning, and that was a miss on my part. But my intention was for you to not only be able to fulfill your intention, but also for others to be able to hear what you have to share and potentially connect with what you have to say and tell, and feel a little bit less alone and a little bit more like they have something in common and maybe inspired. I believe that your intention was very much fulfilled in everything that you shared with us. How do you feel?
I feel good. I can't wait to, man, you did so good summing all that stuff up. I said, wow, okay.
Tell
I
us.
I did say all
You did.
that.
So, okay. So, last question then, right? That's a really good place to kind of close the loop. What did you hear from yourself today?
I have gone through so many things, and sometimes you just need to sit and listen and feel. And I feel like within sharing my story today, you definitely helped me realize that the path that I'm going on, and also I got to hear something else today. It was outcome focused. That was new.
Outcome focus. Yeah. That was I interjected that. I hope that fits, or if it
No, love it.
aligns
Love
with what
it.
you were saying. Okay.
Absolutely. Because normally I say solution
Yeah.
oriented. That's same difference. It's giving. I'm giving an outcome. I'm giving a solution.
Yeah, same word, because and the reason that I dropped that distinction in was because you kept describing it as hustle. And the hustle is the action. You made that very clear. I mean, there's no doubt there. The hustle is the action. It's the things that you do. It's the steps you take to get where you want. But I don't hear you hustling just for the sake of hustling. Like, you're very clear that there is a reason and a solution or a purpose or an endpoint or an outcome. And then you literally just wrapped it up by saying, checking boxes and completing that to-do list is my bread and butter. To me, that just smacks of a love of outcomes, a love of accomplishment and achievement.
Yes, it just feels good, you know?
Yeah.
You did that. And acknowledge it. Acknowledge every single one of those ticks. Okay. And maybe have that expensive champagne at the end of the week.
Darniece, where can people find you?
People can find me in multiple different places. If you would like to get in contact with me directly, you can go to my Gmail, which is darniesimon@gmail.com. But you can also go to my Instagram page if you'd like to give me a follow, which is dar_nephew2.
Is that the number 2, dar_nephew2?
Yes, the number 2. Thank you. So my LinkedIn will be in the show notes. Please give me a follow if you have any projects or something you'd like me to work on. I do contract work as well as an engineer. In addition to any projects that you may need to talk about, get consulted, something of the sorts. But I also am a business owner as well. I own Self Reflection LLC, where creativity meets comfort. And you can find some of my items at selfreflectionllc.com.
Who might be some individuals or creators or causes or organizations that are important to you that you would like to acknowledge, recognize, or lift up or boost? Entirely up to you.
My number one is my GoFundMe page for my uncle. His name is Frederick Portis. He passed away not too long ago. He was a fallen officer and
Mm,
my favorite uncle. I'm just gonna leave it like that. It was very sudden and very abrupt.
mm.
One of my best friends, like when my parents were too tired to be parents, he was the one that I would call. Um, and I miss him so much. We're gonna leave that one there.
Well, he sounds like he was
um,
very well. Let's stay there for a second. He sounds like he was very important to you, and I wanted to give him the space and respect that he deserves. And the link will obviously be in the show notes. So thank you for adding that. I know that can't be
Thank you.
easy as
Oh,
well. So
never. That's why we mask it with humor.
yeah, it's another
So
episode, isn't it?
right, it
Who else
really
were you
is.
going to acknowledge?
I would also like to acknowledge Habitat for Humanity as the active president of the National Society of Black Engineers on the CSU Chico campus. I would make sure that we always volunteer. We volunteer at the homeless shelter. We would volunteer at Habitat for Humanity. We would even volunteer at the African American Center, about like 45 minutes away from town. We're going to put in that work. We're going to put in that effort. So I just want to make sure that I give a shout out to Habitat for Humanity. And then my last shout out, or second to last, would be the National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE. I probably wouldn't be in this position at all if I didn't have that club.
Hmm.
Just because it's a club that with people that look like me. We're all going through the same struggles and we're all here for each other. We are helping each other. So it's not only just like a professional development club, but family as well.
Community and connection, right?
Exactly. And my last shout out would be to Ariana Punter, or Ari Punter. She's a social media manager for anyone who may need some managerial assistance. She's got packages and all that. But yes, those are my shout outs, those are my acknowledgements. But I also, one more, my man,
Hmm.
my man, my man, my man. I wouldn't be me if I didn't.
Nice.
Just I just want to
Nice.
say thank you. I love you very much and I miss you very much. He's a naval warfare officer. He's out at sea right now, so I can't talk to him all the time. But when I do, I just appreciate him.
Hmm.
That's it.
And I wish everyone could see what I get to see being on camera. Is just your face lights up, your grin is a mile wide, and your cheeks are actually like shiny and reflecting the ring light because you're grinning so much. So I just have to acknowledge
My
that.
man, my man, my man. I'm so delusional. It's
Nice.
crazy.
Well, Darniece, thank you so much. So happy to have you on the episode. So appreciative of all of this that you've shared with us, your story, your experience, the wisdom as it has revealed itself to you when you've experienced it. And, certainly off this recording, I look forward to learning more about you as we continue to be friends.
Yes, Paul, this has been great. And thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to share and giving me a voice before I became famous. Insert hair
I
flip.
love it. I love it. You're already famous in my book. I love it. So awesome. All right. Well, have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Paul.
What an honor it is to witness these stories from these amazing human beings, and today's guest was no exception. I invite you to think about what you learned from this conversation. What stood out for you? What challenged you? What inspired you? And I encourage you to write it down in some form of journaling and reflection. I can't tell you how magical it can be to set aside your expectations and just let your thoughts flow out of your head and onto paper. You don't have to have an agenda. You don't have to do anything with it, but you can be amazed at what comes out of your thoughts and onto paper and what that can do for you. I know freestyle journaling has been a powerful practice in my life for a very long time. You just never know what you might discover about yourself. Thank you for listening to this episode of Off the Comma. Follow me on social media at Off the Comma, and also look for upcoming workshops and events at offthecomma.com, or better yet, go to offthecomma.com and sign up for for my mailing list and let me bring the news directly to you. I am passionate about keeping this podcast ad-free so that we create a safe container for people to be able to tell their stories uninterrupted by commercials and promotions. I currently cover all the production costs, and I'm happy to continue doing so. And I'm also open to and appreciative of any donations that anyone would like to contribute. This is nothing more than to be able to support the podcast and cover some of the monthly editing and producing and equipment costs that are associated with this podcast. So look for the donations link in the podcast descriptions wherever you find this podcast. Be sure to like this episode, follow the podcast, and more importantly, spread the good word. If you were moved by today's conversation, pass it along to someone you care about. As always, keep noticing.